Hi, everybody. We are back with another episode of Coming Home Life After Semester at Sea. I'm Kathleen Niegocki, and I was one of the counselors on the fall 2024 voyage. And with me today, we also have Emma DeCaro, was one of our ASL interpreters on the voyage. And we are so excited that we have Tanya Rubin as our guest today. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, first of
Oh,
all.
oh my gosh. Thank you, Kathleen and Emma. We traveled together, so that was extra special.
Yeah.
And like I really became good friends with both of you.
Yeah. So it's nice to be connecting again like this. So just for anyone who's watching, this project originated out of the idea of reentry. We had a little bit of conversation as a community about reentry, before we left the ship, but now we're back. We're in that reentry process. It's been 3 months since we disembarked in Thailand. So we're starting to have some conversations and, informally it sounded like some people were having a harder time than they thought they would. I include myself in that. And we've also talked to people for whom it's felt really smooth, and pretty seamless. And across the board, people have just had a lot of interesting ideas and wisdom just about what it's been like and what it might be like for other people. So that's sort of how this all came about. And, we're hoping that this conversation will be relevant, not just to people who are, doing semester at sea or even studying abroad, but people who are just going through any kind of big transition and then, adjusting to life after having a big experience. So, are you ready for the first question, Tanya?
Yes, I'm
So,
ready.
tell us a little bit just about who you are and what
Mhm.
your role was on the ship.
Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Tanya Rubin, and I've lived in Tampa, Florida for 30 years. And I got to go, this is my first journey, fall of 2024, because my first cousin, Carrie, was a social worker along with Kathleen. And she has a daughter, Livy, who was 9, now is 10. And you have to have a full-time companion if you have a child, really anyone under 18, but it's really like 16 and under. So when the professor, or as Carrie was a social worker, was working, kids can't just run everywhere on the ship. There were a lot of cool kids programs too. So that's how I came to go on the voyage. And when she asked me, I was like, oh yeah. So that's how I got to be on the ship.
Awesome. Awesome. How would you describe semester at sea to someone who maybe didn't really know much about what it is?
I know, it started in 1963. So it's been going on a very long time. It started in the summers at first for a couple of weeks, and now it's expanded. So they have 2 semesters, the fall and the spring. And what's interesting is in the summer, it's a German boat. So they have mostly German tourists that are on
Mhm.
it during the summer, which is neat because they've adapted like one of the big ballrooms with these red velvet couches into the student union and where all the classes were. And the library is not a typical library, but has gold chairs. So I
Mhm.
love how they created this space for students and professors. So really, it's like a floating classroom, if I'd have to describe it. You have amazing professors from everywhere, all walks of life. And I loved that so much, meeting them. And then you have all the students. And for some of them, it's their first time ever being out of the country or being on a trip like this. You can start your gap year after high school, so basically 18 to about 24. And I just loved getting to know and seeing the students' lives through their eyes. And then the
Mhm.
last part is you can be a lifelong learner, which is really cool. So really any age you can be a lifelong learner and you have your own program, but you're all part of the ship. And that was a big part to help with the students too, to get their perspective.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Tanya, for laying out sort of the different elements of what the voyage involved. Um, what did SAS mean to you personally?
Oh my gosh, it changed my life.
Wow.
Um, it's a big jump to do something like that. To be out at sea for 4 months, we went to 10 countries. It was a big step, but I wasn't going to miss the opportunity and all the experiences that I felt in the different countries.
Mm.
The people we met, I met so many, like our tour guides, I still continue on WhatsApp with them.
Wow.
And what's really cool, I met this one lady in Porto, in Portugal, literally walking on the street, and she's from Mozambique, but she was in Portugal for a business conference. She's a model and designer, and she's making me a wedding dress for my niece's wedding coming up. So I love so many different connections that I got to make.
Wow, that's incredible. You mentioned that this experience changed your life. Can you say a little bit just about how you feel different, after having done this?
Well, I feel like it should be one big world. I kind of felt like now we should need to be one nation, and that includes the entire world, because we're so connected in different ways. And I found that the people in each country were so proud of their culture and heritage and wanted to show that. So genuine. And I don't know if I was expecting that as much. Very
Mm-hmm.
welcoming, no
Yeah.
matter what country we went to.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, um, I didn't realize that as much. And the way they interacted with students, let's say, versus professors and lifelong learners when we were in the countries.
Yeah. It sounds like you really made so many connections and really made a point to meet people and in every country that you went
I
to.
did, and I tried to travel with different people. So Carrie, Livy, and I, we traveled sometimes together, but I spent like a full day with Emma and Eli in Hong Kong, different
Mm.
lifelong learners, my friend Valerie. So I tried to kind of, and sometimes I travel by myself. And
Yeah.
really, honestly, I love traveling by myself too.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of everything, and I'm happy the way that turned out.
That's awesome. At this point, what are you missing the most about semester at sea?
Well, really, the community, you're sitting in the lunchroom or dining room, and you can sit down with one of the professors. That was amazing to me for international studies, global studies, oceanography, economics, and the lifelong learners. And like one was an attorney, one had done really well in business, one ran Montessori schools to get their perspectives. And
Mhm.
really, I remember Dean Ann was saying the first day that the kids arrive on the ship, she wanted as many people down there greeting them, as she called, to see the magic when they first come in with their bags.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't know if I should talk about it now or about one or two of my experiences in one of the countries or.
Yeah. So, the next question I think is like a great segue from where you are, which is like, tell us one of your favorite memories from SAS.
I do have two real quick.
That's
Um,
okay. It's hard. It can be hard to narrow it to one.
yes, the first one I have to say was really Vietnam.
Mm.
And I think it was a lot about the Vietnam War. And I didn't realize, I knew I'd be emotional, but I didn't realize how emotional I got. What happened in Ho Chi Minh and Saigon. And we also spent 3 days pretty far up, almost to Cambodia, not quite, on the Mekong Delta. And this is where, way back when, people lived on the river and they did fishing and they did rice. And that's how they survived. And our tour guide lived on the Mekong Delta with his family. That's how he grew up. So we got a really good perspective from him. One thing that was neat, I stayed at the Rex Hotel.
Mhm.
And I don't know if people know about it, but it's famous because that's where the US military took over as their headquarters during the war. And a lot of journalists would report from there. They did it at other hotels too, but this was sort of famous for that. And they have an amazing rooftop bar. So at 5 p.m., that's when they would send out all their press releases. And then they
Mm.
would drink. And so when I went there, they have this 5 p.m. Follies drink. It's a folly drink, which is like, it's kind of like a mojito, but on
Mhm.
steroids. And
Mhm.
it was so good. And I met
Mhm.
a lot of people on the rooftop bar. We also went to the Coochie tunnels, which is where the Vietnamese had to hide. There's 3 layers of tunnels. We only went to the first layer,
Mm.
and it showed that all the Vietnamese people and the American soldiers that died and what happened to them.
Yeah.
That was very, yeah, I want to go back for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. You were so open to learning and to being moved by what you learned.
Yes. And the one thing our tour guide said, which is so interesting, Vietnam is still a communist country, but there are so many motorbikes. And
Mm.
of course, I got on a motorbike. I didn't drive it myself. No, on the back. And you can order it as like an Uber. It's called Grab. So you can order a legitimate motorbike in Vietnam and it's safe. And they're strict. Both of you have to wear a helmet. And because it's a communist country, you'll get in trouble if you don't. And I
Mhm.
love that, being free
Mm.
and everything and seeing the city. And then just our tour guide also mentioned that Vietnamese people are not resentful about the war. He said they don't live back in yesterday, but they don't look for tomorrow. They live in today. They live for today.
Yeah.
So that's something I learned. And then the second one would have to say South Africa. We went down to Kruger. We flew to Kruger in Johannesburg National Park. Amazing safari, but our safari was not like a 5-star. It was like a 2-star lodge. And that
Mhm.
made it better. It was more fun. And
More
all the
real.
animals and the people we met, this Australian family that was on it and these guys from the Netherlands. But what really was profound for me was in Cape Town. That's where Desmond Tutu was, and there's a museum about him. And then when you really saw in the museum what happened in apartheid, um, heartbreaking. But one of his biggest quotes was truth to power. When
Mm.
I looked up really what truth to power means, it means standing up for injustice, standing up for something that's wrong. And it could be very risky. And
Mm.
it kind of correlates to what's happening now, I think, in the United States, some of the
Mm.
injustices that are happening.
Mm.
So that hit home.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those experiences and also sharing so much of like again what you learned and how it impacted you in such a deep way. So thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Moving now to just this re-entry process, how was coming back for you? And were there any parts of it that were challenging or maybe not?
You know what? It was 4 months, but to be honest, I was happy to come home. I
Mm.
really miss my daughters and I miss my family and my mom and siblings. What was kind of neat, I flew out of Thailand and I flew right into my nephew's wedding in Minneapolis, which was freezing cold. And I got to see everyone. And that was a great homecoming.
Mm.
That was really neat. And then I've kept so many contacts up, and I'm starting to do something with one of the Ugandan charities that wasn't on the trip, but they have a really amazing pen pal program. And so I'm trying to get a lot of the ship kids to do this program. We're talking tomorrow if they want to be part of this pen pal program for
Mm.
students their age in Uganda. And just keeping in touch with the people, even the students that I met, having some kind of connection
Yeah.
really helped.
Yeah, it sounds like there was something about returning and being right there surrounded by family. Like that welcome was such a great like first experience back for you to have.
Yes.
And
Yes. Amazing.
yeah, and that you're also like really keeping up connections and staying involved.
Yes, that's what, actually, I just put a video together. After 3 months, my friend helped me, and somewhere we're going to post it, the ship life and then the 10 countries that I went to. So
Hmm.
that kind of, taking the time to do that was great. And I don't know, for the students, what I've seen on social media, they're keeping in touch,
Hmm.
and some have even visited each other already. So I saw that. And I think because it's maybe harder for them to come back after this. But a lot of them is their last semester of college, and they're like, well, I'm back for my last semester of college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thinking a little bit about people who may be like having a harder time with reentry based on like your experience, is there any advice or any ideas that you might want to share for folks?
Well, there's an alumni community, and that's important to join. And I just say staying in touch with different people and maybe exploring more in the future. If you can go back to one of the countries or another country, now that you've got that travel bug or juice in you, and then go to another voyage. Maybe like I've heard a lot of that. They go when they're younger and they come back as an adult, as a professor or lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
And the community is very close, very close.
Yeah. And I appreciate so much how, like I've told you this, that you really were like all in, like um, to the whole experience on the voyage, and you got so
You.
involved in so many aspects of like ship life, and you brought
Thanks,
such a like
Kathleen.
vitality, I feel like, to the community, and it's really cool to see how you are like keeping SAS alive and staying connected in like multiple ways, and also helping other people to stay connected, and also by doing this,
You.
staying
I
connected.
know, I know. I feel like we're
Yeah,
like family. We're family.
yeah, yes. that was the end of like the questions. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up? Any
I would
final?
just say one thing about Semester at Sea, they offer a lot of scholarships. So if you're a student, there's a lot of opportunities to get a scholarship, which, and um, that's really important that they do that. And then just wanted to mention April 2nd is the annual day of giving, but you can support SAS throughout the year. And if you want to give a donation, because it can go directly to the ship's needs or a scholarship for students. And that can kind of help keep everything going since 1963, which I still can't believe it's gone on for that long.
Yeah. Thank you so much for those plugs. Tanya, it was so great to get to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your wisdom. Really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Love you,
Yeah.
Emma, both of you.
Love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.